It's different than what everyone thought I was wearing, but
All right, so you,
Good evening and thank you. We're just coming out of executive session, so I apologize. We're a couple of minutes behind. For the record, school committee man Josiah Gonzalez is unable to attend tonight. They have a youth build graduation going on. It's a program that New North Citizens Council runs. A great program, so he sends his regrets. And Vice Chair Latonia Naylor will be participating virtually. She's away at a conference, I believe, I understand. So this is the public speak out, and first signed up is Marguerite Foster Franklin. Ms. Foster Franklin? Nothing, Josue? Okay, one more time, and we'll go back to her in case she's able to get on. Marguerite Foster Franklin? Okay. Second will be Tony McCreath. Tony McCreath, please. No? Okay, say again, Marguerite Foster Franklin.
Is there anybody in the key? Is Josue? Anybody in the key?
Tony McCreath. We're checking with our Focus Springfield team there. They're not there. Okay, I'm going to say one more time. If not, that will conclude public speak out. There were 2 sign-ups on that. Marguerite Foster Franklin. Okay, Tony McCreath. Okay, hearing that neither are on, maybe we'll...
Mr. Mayor, I
Yeah.
just got a, how are you, sir? This is
Good.
Latonia.
Yeah.
I just got a message from one of the folks that were gonna participate that they never received the link to be able to get on, and they've been trying to get on for the last few minutes. So I don't know if I don't know what happened.
Well, Patty, our secretary, and Ms. McCarthy indicates a link was sent to them.
Can we take a recess to give them a few
Yeah,
minutes?
we'll give. We're going to take a 1 or 2 minute recess to see if this can be clarified, and we'll come back to session. Thank you. We do have, George has indicated we do have one on, Tony McCree.
I don't know. All right, well, when we get.
We'll go back in session for public speak out. Say again, Marguerite Foster Franklin.
Okay.
You know,
All right, I think,
One more time, Marguerite Foster Franklin.
bronze plaques for other things.
right.
Okay, hearing no response. Tony McCree, please.
So when we did, Antoinette Pepe, right? What did we do, a plaque?
Yes.
Okay.
Rogers.
Okay, all right.
I think the one for Antoinette was right down by the shop.
Okay, very good.
The one for Mike was outside in the hallway by the library, if I remember.
Okay. All right. How old would he be now? Mike? He must be like late 60s, right?
He would be
Sure. Miss Tony McGreeth, please.
mid to late 60s.
Yes. Hello, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes, Miss McGreeth.
Wonderful. Is it time for me to speak, or was I just checking in?
No, it's time for you to speak.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
I just wanted to introduce myself and take a couple minutes. So my name is Tony McCreeth. I am the Director of Special Events at Interscape 91. I specialize in STEM field trips, and I wanted to speak out a little bit in regards to the importance of hands-on learning in the city of Springfield. I have been trying to touch bases with all the schools in Springfield, and I've been faced with a little bit of adversity. Fortunately, I was able to speak to Ms. Darcia Milner, who has aided me in touching base with the principals of the schools and sending over an informational email regarding STEM field trips, which I believe is something that's imperative for our youth, to engage in mobility activities such as roller skating, which can also be incorporated in learning some STEM lessons. We have a great STEM educator by the name of Eileen Demings. She has a master's degree in biology and chemistry, and she is basically an aid to the teachers of the city of Springfield in regards to assisting them in their lessons that they teach the elementary school and middle school students. She is willing to adapt and create lessons that will reinforce what's being taught to the students in the classrooms, so these lessons can be converted into hands-on lessons at the rink. So I just wanted to familiarize members of the school committee with myself, as well as Mayor Sarno. Good evening. And just let you know that I am an advocate of STEM, and that's something that I think should be implemented in the Springfield educational system on an annual basis. Each year, there's a new set of, elementary school students and middle school students that can experience a STEM lesson. And, again, it's fortunate that we have somebody like Eileen who is willing to partner with, speak with the math and science teachers of these schools to make sure or reinforce that their lessons are being mastered by the students.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'll say one more time, Marguerite Foster Franklin. Okay, hearing none, that concludes
I think Chris kind of
public speak out.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, Miss, I'm sorry,
where Latone.
Miss Foster, I apologize.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can see, yes.
Okay. Okay. Good evening. I almost said good morning.
That's
I'm
okay.
Margaret Foster Franklin. I'm a retiree callback now for the Springfield Public School System. I'm happy to say that I'm here to talk about the Parent-Teacher Home Visit Project. And I just want to say that this is one of the very most important projects that the Springfield Public Schools has. And I just want to iterate how important that we need to keep it going and keep it started. I'm also asking that the principals are reminded at each school that are offering it right now, it's in the elementary schools, that they're reminded to let their staff know to get involved in this program and get it started as soon as possible. To my knowledge right now, they haven't had any some of the trainings will be starting in October, but there are many staff members who have already been trained, and we need to get it started as soon as possible because they can only do 2 visits. We want to get the first visit in before Thanksgiving, as well as the next visit in the spring. And the reason why I'm pushing this is because this is one of the best ways that we can meet the parents where they're at, meet the families where they're at, and get to know them the way we want to get them, and to help them to meet their needs, as also to help them understand how important education is and how much we care about them. This is why I'm pushing this program. I was very much involved in it when it started coming into the elementary schools. I was one of 2 people at Summer Avenue at the time. We only did 2 visits. Now, at the last time I was able to visit every child in my classroom, and what a difference it has made with me communicating with the parents in my classroom when I got to visit all the children in my classroom. I got to know their needs. We communicated well. Anything that was happening with their classroom, they felt very important, very informative. They also informed me of any issues or concerns that they may have. I also got parents who never, ever, ever wanted to volunteer in the school system to volunteer, to also become more involved, not only just with your child at home, but also in their child's education. Also, it helped to make the school run better and having more parents involved, and there's more staff that could understand how important it was for that. I had one parent that I've been following since my first visit with him. They have moved since then to Hartford, and we still communicate. His children now are in high school. So I'm just iterating the fact that we just continue to fund the Parent Teacher Home Visit Project. It is a fabulous program, which we know came out of Sacramento, California, and that we continue to fund it. And please, I would like for you to have it pushed. I know my time is up. To push the program within the principals, to let them know that we need to get this ball rolling so we can continue to keep communicating with our parents in our communities.
Thank you very much, Ms. Foster Franklin, and thank you for your heartfelt words and your continued efforts. And you have a fabulous hat on too. Thank you so much. Thanks, Marguerite. That concludes our public speak out. We'll be back in formal session in about 10 minutes or so. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, George. Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Hurst? Present. Attorney Murphy?
Present.
Mr. Gonzalez?
For a note, Mr. Gonzalez sends his regrets. They have a youth build graduation going on this evening, so he sends his regrets. He's unable to attend.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Ms. Gresham?
Present.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Present.
Ms. Monroe Naylor is at conference, so she's virtually joining us this evening.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, can we all please rise for a moment of silence at the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oops.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll now move to section 2 of the agenda, approval of the minutes. To approve the minutes of September 21st, 2023 school committee meeting. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gresham. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Collins. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez? Absent. Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes. Thank you. We'll move the voting items now. A is the vote on the appointment of a person to serve on the Chief Administrative Financial Officer, the CAFO Screening Committee for the Springfield CAFO position. If there's any interest then on this or any nominations at all?
Is he taking,
Mr. Mayor, that's
Mayor.
not the first item.
that's not the first item.
Don't we have 2 field trips to approve? A and B?
Well, this is what I had here.
Do we have different agendas?
It
Maybe
was
this was updated.
revised.
Oh, there was a revised.
We had a couple of field trips that came in late.
Okay,
So
okay,
the
let me,
agenda was revised.
I have it here. This is an updated.
These
This
came in
came
late. That's
late,
why, Mayor,
okay.
sorry.
So my apologies on it. Let me go to the, this is the revised agenda. So let me go back. Voting items, 2 new voting items here. A, to approve a field trip request for Springfield Central High School to Orleans, Mass. on October 13, 2023, returning on October 14, 2023. Superintendent Ward, please.
Thanks, Mayor. This is an overnight trip. I believe the cross-country team at Central, if you remember, went on this trip last year. It's for a cross-country meet. Recommend approval, and the form is in your packet.
Thank you, Superintendent Ward. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, is a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Attorney Murphy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez? Absent. Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank you. B is to approve a field trip request for Springfield Conservatory of the Arts, Boston, Massachusetts, on October 26th through the 23rd, returning on the same day at 11:45 p.m. Superintendent Warwick?
Thank you, Mayor. There's a field trip form in your packet. I'm recommending approval on this trip.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Hurst, is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez? Absent. Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank you. A deja vu all over again. C, the vote on an appointment of a person to serve on the Chief Administrative and Financial Officer, the CAFO Screening Committee for the Springfield CAFO position. If there's any interest or nominations on the floor.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
I thought we received notification that it was the vice chair.
Attorney Phelps?
Could you clarify, Attorney Phelps?
Under Chapter 468 of the Acts of 2008, it clearly says that the school committee the school committee, the city council, and the secretary of administration and finance of the Commonwealth shall each appoint one person to serve on the screening committee. The clear statutory language requires the full school committee to vote on the appointment of a person to serve on the CAFO screening committee. The school committee is not limited to choosing one of its members to serve on the CAFO screening committee and may select a person who is not a school committee member. And that memorandum was sent to the entire school committee on September 20th, 2023 from my office.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I would nominate Mr. Collins to be the person to serve on the screening committee. He has a wealth of experience in the financial area, having been on the financial committee for the school committee and also in the private sector and also in his prior service at the city of Springfield. So I would support Mr. Collins for this position.
Okay, there's a nomination, motion by Attorney Murphy. Is there a second, please?
Can I also just, can we have discussion or no?
We have a motion on the floor.
I didn't hear.
Can you clarify that? Attorney Phelps?
Under Robert's rules, if a motion is made and second, the discussion then follows the motion.
Okay.
So if there is a second to the motion, then there would be discussion on the nominee.
Okay, again, is there a second on the, second?
Second.
Okay, second by Ms. Gresham. Now we can have this, thank you, Ms. Gresham.
While I'm not opposed to Mr. Collins serving, because I know he serves as the chair of the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, why wouldn't we consider our vice chair to be our representative? And I think I have another question. Who is on the body now? Or who makes up the committee at this moment?
I have 4 appointments, which I've named earlier, and then the City Council President made an appointment, which I believe was Vice President Melvin Edwards. On the rules, there was clarification from Attorney Phelps that by school committee that we had to nominate and take it to a vote.
Yeah, VP Melvin Edwards, and then who are the other 4? I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top.
Haskell Kennedy, Billy Cristofori, Jose Claudio, and my 4th is retired assessor Peggy Lynch.
Who?
Peggy Lynch. So those are my 4 appointees by statute, where the Chief Executive Officer of the City of Springfield, the mayor, has the authority to appoint 4. I made my appointments.
And are those four men or five men? The last name, was that a female or a male?
Female.
Oh, I didn't hear you, Mayor. I was just
Female,
asking for
yeah.
clarification.
And again, you have to have people that have the mind expertise in finance, which Peggy was a chief assessor for the city of Springfield, and also Haskell Kennedy was the chief diversity officer, labor, and for the state of Connecticut, and Bill Cristofori was a CFO for the Hampden County Sheriff's Department, and Jose Claudio will be my community representative on that. So we meet all the guidelines for my appointments, which were named publicly not too long ago, I believe 2 weeks ago. We're still awaiting the A&F secretary to name he or she's appointment on it. And then it was clarified by Attorney Phelps that the school committee, that the vice chair could not name, that it had to go to a vote of the school committee.
So I'll just say that I'm not opposed to Chris serving, especially if Latonia is not interested, but I do think just from, it sounds like you have a great deal of diversity on the people that you just named, but it would be great to have better gender diversification.
I
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Yeah.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. So what's the length of the service? I mean, how long are they on that?
That, again, that'll be formed by the committee and working with the ANF secretary. So this, you know, I remember last time, I think, Chris, you served, it was a lengthy process.
Yeah, I did serve on the one when they picked TJ Plant, and it was it was a lot of meetings, and it was a lengthy, it took, I want to say it took 3.5 to 4 months.
Yeah. To lay out the process. And the advertisement, the process, and then the interview portion, and what's brought to my attention for consideration on it. So those are good questions. And again,
May I ask a question?
Sure, Vice Chair.
When Vice Chair Collins was appointed for, when TJ Plant was selected, was that an agreement by the school committee, or was that an appointee for him being the vice chair?
Well, Mindy, if you can clarify that, I know I think the control board was still here at that time.
I'm not able to
Yeah,
answer
I
that
don't-
question.
I don't
don't
rec-
know.
I don't
I
recall.
was not around at
Yeah.
that time. I mean, I was around, but not my position.
Vice Chair
I was
Naylor.
not on the school committee at that point. I was the insurance director for the city
Yeah,
when I served in that role.
and I believe the control board was still
The
in
control
place.
board was there, and I believe it was, I think it was Mayor Ryan who appointed me. But at that point, I was still the insurance program director. I hadn't even gone back to the schools at that point.
And I'm trying to think who was the appointee from the school committee. You're talking about
Who was it?
14 years ago. So,
I think who,
but we're following the statutes, which have been clarified. So that's, I don't know if anybody had interest. That's why I put it out on the floor here. So there is a motion on the floor. Yes,
I
Vice-
did have an interest, so I never excluded myself from the conversation. So I just wanted to express that I did have an interest, and I do also have experience managing multi-million-dollar organizations and funding and budgets, federal, state, and local. So I wanted to make it clear that it's not as if I don't have the experience to be able to be a part of this process.
Nobody was indicating that at all, Madam Vice Chair. I asked for nominations. Simple, who had interest and wanted to serve.
Yes, sir, I didn't mean it by any disrespect to you. I just wanted to make sure that it was clarified, because Mr. Murphy did make the comment as to why he was nominating Mr. Collins, and I wanted to make it clear that the assumption at first that the vice chair was the individual to assign, according to how City Council did, and we, under Attorney Felt's guidance, decided that we would not go that route, that we would take precautionary measure and making sure that the entire body was involved in the process of voting. And so I just want to make sure that it's clear that when you called me, and under the first initial understanding, thought that by default I was the person to represent or appoint, and then that was clarified that in no way was I going to recuse myself because I did not think I was qualified or had the experience.
Yeah, no.
However, if the body chooses to vote for Mr. Collins, I will not be opposed to whatever the majority agrees to do.
And again, following the statute, once it was official that Mr. Plant was going to leave to go to the private sector, I did personally call the Vice Chairwoman Naylor, and I called the City Council President, Jesse Letterman, and I called the ANF Secretary to notify them that this was occurring and that I was going to make my appointments. And by statute, the ANF Secretary makes their appointments. The City Council has an appointment on it, and the school committee has an appointment on it. And I sent that over to everybody on the school committee and Mindy, and she clarified that our rules regulate that you have to have a vote by the school committee. So
Can I
that's-
ask a quick question? Oh, sorry.
Who was that?
What was that?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, Josiah, how are you? I didn't know you were going to be coming on. If you can make note, we indicated that you were unable to make the meeting tonight.
Mr. Chairman, can I be recognized for the purposes as being present
Sure.
as of now and for the remainder
Sure.
of the meeting?
Sure. Madam Clerk, could you recognize, I had an email that the graduation would not be attending, so we're glad to have you.
Yeah, just getting out of the graduation, I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman. For the sakes of of knowledge, Mr. Chairman, either you or Attorney Phelps in the chamber, could you just briefly gloss over, I know we're talking about for the CAFO search on the city side?
Sure. Bittersweet, TJ Planner, a longtime CAFO, has moved to take a position in the private sector. And at that point in time, a notification by the statute, I had to notify the Secretary of A&F, which I did. I had to notify the City Council President, City Council, and also notify the school committee, who have statutory one appointment. So I let Vice Chair Monroe Naylor know that. And then I had my 4 appointments, which I've already made. And then that was sent to Attorney Phelps and school committee for review. And she clarified it that with the school committee that you have to take a vote of the school committee who to put on there. So that's where we stand.
And Mr. Chairman, may I ask, does anybody have the institutional or organizational history as to in the past who would serve on these CAFO searches? Traditionally, would it just be, was it just the vice chair on this?
Again, this happened during, the control board was still here at the time when that occurred on that. I know the statute that we're following here. I know on my things, I have to have 2 appointees with financial acumen, expertise, and municipal finance, which I do have 2 appointments on there. But as far as we'd have to look in the archives who represented the school committee at that point in time. Patty, or we'd have to check on that.
I don't recall a member of the school committee being on it, quite honestly. I was not on the school committee when I served. I don't recall, I don't recall a counselor either.
Yeah. Well, I know, again, they had there's a statute, the statute now we're following.
Right, I'm
And
not
going
sure that
back, and
statute was in effect until the control board.
And you know what, I think you could be right. I think the control board at the time had a number of private sector individuals that were on that original search. Again, that was under the auspices of the Financial Control Board. The statute indicates 4 appointees by the chief executive officer, the mayor, he or she, 1 appointee from the A&F secretary, 1 appointee from the city council, and 1 appointee from the school committee.
May I ask a question? I have 2 questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll ask the shorter one first. Did it come through a subcommittee?
No.
No, okay. And then 2, I didn't hear what you said, Ms. Monroe Naylor. What was it, so that we can all be looped in? There was a conversation about who could or could not serve. I didn't hear there was the first part of your.
Yes, Mr. Mayor kind of clarified it as well, that when the initial announcement came out and he know that he was required to make an appointment, he reached out to me and he reached out to City Council President, Councilor Letterman. And so when he reached out to me, he let me know that at that time, the understanding was, according to the statute, that either the vice chair or the vice chair would appoint someone to be on the hiring committee or search committee in representation of the school committee. But following that, a day or so later, I received a call from Attorney Phelps that it was not the case that the vice chair would make that decision alone, that it was required for the body to vote on who would be appointed to represent the school committee.
So again, we stand with a motion on the floor, and it has been seconded. There's no other discussion on that, a vote, whether to accept or not?
I was just going to say the last piece is that I think that I guess it's a nomination, but I would nominate that our vice chair represent us on this committee.
Well, right now, we have a motion that's already on the floor for a nomination, so we have to take that to a vote. We have a motion made by Attorney Peter Murphy, was seconded by Barbara Gresham, to nominate school committeeman Chris Collins to serve on the CAFO search committee process. And with that, if there's no other questions or comments, you can call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
No.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Abstain.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
No.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank you very much. Thank you for being willing to serve. Okay, now we'll move to D. This is to approve a delegate to the Massachusetts Association of School Committees joint conference in November 2023. Superintendent Warwick?
Thank you, Mayor. This one has been through legislative and contracts, and Josiah is here, so he could talk about the piece there.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Mr. Chairman, can you please restate the item on the agenda?
Yeah, D is to approve a delegate to the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Mass Joint Conference in November 2023.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Superintendent, we had a joint meeting on it, and we voted to nominate Ms. Hurst as the delegate, and then as the alternate, we had put forth Ms. Naylor on it.
Okay?
Unfortunately,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I can't serve.
Okay. You've done it great.
No,
here for
I
many-
can't serve because
No,
I sit on the executive committee.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry.
Okay, so Ms. Hurst is clarified because she sits on the executive committee. She's been our longtime representative on the state. We appreciate that. It would be she serves on the executive committee, so she's unable to serve. So that means.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
If possible, I'd like to nominate Mr. Collins to serve on the MASC as our delegate.
Motion for him.
Without due respect,
You-
in the meeting, we talked about Latonia being
The
the
alternate,
alternate.
so she would-
Shouldn't we offer Latonia
Yeah.
to see if she wants to be the delegate?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't think about who the.
I think that would be proper protocol if Ms. Vice Chair Naylor would take that on as the delegate.
One of the situations was that my hotel was not reserved for that night because I had a mix up on my schedule. So I am not likely going to be there because the hotel is full now. So we appointed Mrs. Hurst, assuming that she would be there, not realizing she couldn't participate as a delegate, and knowing that I would be there the next day, but I wouldn't have a hotel for that night. So unless you're able to get me a hotel room that night, I won't be able to be there.
We can get her a hotel.
Yep.
What did she say?
What did you say?
Thank you, Denise. I thought
we
we were
can
going to
get
go
her
back
a
to square
hotel.
one. Ms. Hurst says they'll be able to get her a hotel, so,
We can talk to the MASC who holds a block.
Yeah.
And we can ask.
Ask, okay.
I mean, can't guarantee you, but I'm pretty sure that we can ask the
And
MASC.
if we couldn't get that particular
they could
hotel, we
give
get one in
one-
proximity, maybe.
Right, if
Yeah.
they could give a slot to the district.
Well,
Miss-
just for clarification, I do have a hotel Thursday and Friday night, but that Wednesday night is the night that I didn't have a room for. And that's the day that we're having the delegate assembly. So I do have a room. I just wasn't able to get the room on that Wednesday because they sold out. So I don't know if maybe people cancel up until this point, Mrs. Hurst, and maybe now there's a room open for that night as well.
John, I'm happy to talk to the MASC and talk
Thank
about it
you.
offline and see if they can connect with
Beautiful.
Patty and shift if they have any rooms or availability, because they usually hold the block for their presenters and everybody else.
Thank you,
thank you,
Denise.
Ms. Hurst. So, Vice Chair.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just say I'm going to change the motion would be to nominate Mr. Collins as the alternate.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
I'm just, do we,
Second to Ms. Gresham.
Don't we have to do the
are
first?
we appointing them?
Right, we
Order?
got to, actually, we have to,
Are
there's,
they separate agenda items?
yeah, there are separate, they are separate agenda items, so we have to deal with the delegate first, so
I
the
think-
if everything, and I appreciate Ms. Hurst being able to hopefully facilitate the Wednesday night hotel room for Vice Chair Naylor. So Vice Chair Naylor, if she's able to do that, would you accept that nomination?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor to nominate Vice Chair Naylor as the delegate, and I think we have a second on that?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, four is sufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank you, Latonia, and thank you, Denise. Now we can move to E, and thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, Josiah. E, approve an alternate delegate to the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, the Mass Joint Conference for 2023. I'll turn it back over to the subcommittee chair, Mr. Gonzalez, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, due to the subsequent changes, I would like to make a motion that we nominate Mr. Collins as the alternate delegate for the MASC.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote. If Mr. Collins accepts it, roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
The hesitation was, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank you very much. They will now move to approving authorizing the elected delegate, alternative delegate to vote on resolutions at the Mass Conference in 2023. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Yeah, this went through the legislative and contracts also, and didn't know if Josiah wanted to speak.
Mr. Gonzalez, if you'd like to speak on that, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would just call upon Attorney Phelps if she could just give a brief overview on it. It was reviewed during our meeting.
Thank you, Attorney Phelps.
At the subcommittee, there was a discussion regarding the authorization to the delegate or alternate delegate to vote on the resolutions. And it not only was assigning an individual to vote on it, but also empowering that individual as there are amendments to the resolution to use the best judgment in passing any amendment to a resolution. So that authority is given to an individual from the subcommittee.
As we've normally done.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Collins, or second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you. G is to approve an expenditure of $20,000 for Siemens Empower Grant from Siemens Industry Incorporated. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for STEM Middle School, and Kim is here. Kim, you want to speak to this?
Ms. Wells? Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. This grant is a $20,000 grant that we would use to update STEM's makerspace and science and technology lab. That money would go to update the equipment and the materials both during the school day and after school programming for students in the robotics, the science, technology, engineering, and math labs, including purchasing robotics kits, coding for kids using Scratch, which is a coding language that allows students to do their own programs in animation and gaming, and 3D laser printers, which would allow them to do science models in 3D form. So that's what the purpose of this grant would be.
Oh, we're very appreciative of Siemens there. Any questions of Ms. Wells, Director Wells? Superintendent Warwick?
Yeah, it's been through Budget and Finance.
It received unanimous support in Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Collins, or second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hurst. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wells. I is to approve an expenditure of $25,000.
No, I think we're on H.
Oh, sorry, I'm H, I apologize. I better clean my glasses here. Huh? H, to approve an expenditure of $7,267 for the Springfield Empowerment Zone for the approaches to address student cell phone use pilot grant from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, acronym DESE. Superintendent Ward, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This grant went to the Empowerment Zone, and Matt Brunel is on to go through it. Matt?
Mr. Brunel, Director Brunel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the school committee, Superintendent Warwick. Thanks for the opportunity to present this grant to you. I want to begin by just thanking Principal Amani Hines-Coombs at Kiley Academy for pursuing this grant. This grant will effectively establish a cell phone-free zone through the use of Yonder packets as part of a pilot initiative within our middle schools to see if the riddance of phones within schools will lead to stronger student behaviors as well as student engagement. I will say that we have been inspired by the success that we've seen within the rest of Springfield Public Schools with their adoption of these pilots. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Brunel. Any questions or comments?
Can I ask? Oh.
Okay, let me go to Ms. Hurst, then I'll go to Ms. Gresham.
I was just going to ask, when we implemented it in our other schools, was it by way of a grant, or did we pay for that?
No, we paid for it. And the state liked what was done, so they put this grant out to support it, and they suggested we apply for the grant. So a piece went to the Empowerment Zone. The next item's going to be for our schools.
All right,
But it was very successful at Central, so we expanded it.
got it.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Ms. Gresham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Renee, would it be all the middle schools?
So initially, Member Gresham, it will just be at Kiley Academy. We have piloted at a few of our other schools, and we're very eager to see just what the results are before we do a wholesale adoption.
All right, and has it started already, or?
It has, yeah, and there's some real early success there.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham.
Welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Superintendent
If I
Ward?
could just say it's been through Budget and Finance.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, it did, got unanimous support. I'm glad to see that the state realized that Springfield and Chicopee knew how to lead the state and finally acknowledged and put some money into it.
Thank you for that editorial comment, Mr. Collins. I appreciate that. If there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved. Oh, sorry.
That's right, motion by everybody. We'll get Ms. Hurst, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Almost a news, I'll get Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst.
Yes.
Attorney Murphy.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Ms. Gresham.
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor.
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passed. Thank you. I is to approve an expenditure of $25,000 for approaches to address student cell phone use pilot grant from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, acronym DESE. Superintendent Ward, please.
Kim Wells is here to present quickly for the Springfield Public Schools.
Director Wells, thank you.
Good evening. This grant is a $25,000 grant to continue implementation of our cell phone-free policy at 3 additional schools that were approved by the school committee last year. We piloted the original school at Central, and after seeing the success at Central, we decided that we wanted to try to implement the Yonder pouches at SciTech, Conservatory of the Arts and Renaissance. And so we funded it. When the state came out with additional funding opportunities, we applied for that grant to offset the cost of the Yonder pouches that the schools were purchasing and received this $25,000 grant to do so.
Thank you, Director Wells. Any questions or comments?
So is it expanding outside of those 4 schools?
Not currently, no.
Okay,
We're
so-
doing Central year 1, and year 2 would be the 3 schools that the school committee approved last year.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Any other
Those
questions?
were the only 3 schools that wanted it at this time. So it made a lot of sense.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we have any indication whether the state will continue to do this? So if we had more schools next year, did they give any inkling?
I know that when I talked to Jeff Riley, he was excited when we went forward with Central and wanted to encourage more, so I think there is a possibility that they put more money into this next year, because the commissioner is very supportive of this endeavor. So I think there could be more money down the road.
And may I ask
Sure.
why some schools don't want them? Is it because of the cost and it has to come out of their school budget, or because they don't see
it's
as
not-
much of an issue?
Well, I think that they just weren't ready with a lot of the things they're doing at this time and didn't see the need at this time. So we wanted to implement it in schools that really felt the need and really wanted to make it work. It's a tremendous
make it
amount
work,
of
yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure there was buy-in at the school. And these principals really looked at it at Central and said, we really want to go forward with it. So we'll have a larger sample size and we'll offer to our principals again. But it wasn't a monetary decision, yeah.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Collins, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hurst. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, the matter passes. Thank you. J is to approve expenditure of $25,000 for Renaissance Innovation Career Pathways Planning Grant from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, acronym DESE. Superintendent Warwick?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, really excited about this one. Kim is going to present with Derek from our school, Renaissance. And again, kudos to Pam Matheson also for her great work on this. Kim?
Director Wells, please.
So we're really excited, and as the superintendent mentioned, I really would like to thank Pam and Principal Wright from Renaissance and his team for going after a planning grant in the amount of $25,000 to begin the planning opportunity to build up an innovation and career pathways program at Renaissance, with the focus on environmental science and business and finance. So this planning grant will afford stipends to the entire team to work on the planning portion of this grant, which is due on October on the 26th. And really what we're looking at doing is expanding opportunities to build internships and career pathways for students, both within industry and within partnerships within local colleges and universities. And so what we will do is apply for the Part A grant in October, and then if invited to continue, we'll apply for Part B in February with the award for the Innovation Pathways designation to occur with a launch in the fall of 24-25.
Thank you, Director Wells. Any questions or comments? Ms. Gresham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So will it be, the committee will be composed of students only, or?
No, so the committee right now, the planning grant is the district, members from the school district, Mr. Wright and his administrative team, and a variety of counselors and teachers in the school who would be sitting down and planning with student input, looking at the variety of different pieces, because what we're looking to do is tie it into the capstone projects that already exist for students in the expeditionary learning pathways at Renaissance. So this is just an opportunity to provide additional capstone internships and experiences for kids both in the workplace and within colleges and universities that we'll be looking to partner with.
All right, so with the students' input, will they be present
So
during?
for the planning piece, we will gather some student information and some surveying, and then the second part of the grant, which is the Part A application, would be the piece where we actually do the program design for the launch next year. And so, yes, and students would be involved in that piece
All right,
of the grant.
all right. So will we be notified or updated as to how it's going?
Yes, so the planning grant is due, the planning grant submission Part A is due October 26th. The actual program design and implementation is due on February 6th, and we'll be applying for that if the state determines that our innovation pathways design looks like it can be something that can be implemented successfully at Renaissance, which we're really convinced can happen given the expeditionary learning component that's happening.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Wells. Any other questions or comments?
It's been through Budget and Finance, the subcommittee.
Thank you,
It
Superintendent Warwick.
received
Mr. Collins?
unanimous support. I think this is a great innovation for that school, too.
Thank you, Principal Wright, also, too, for being here. No other questions or comments? There's a motion on the floor, please.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you. Thank you, Director Wells. Thanks, Kim. K is to approve expenditure of and $10,000 for planning implementation of the Mass Step ABE and Mass Step ESOL grant from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, acronym for DESE. Superintendent Warwick?
Thank you, Mayor. There's a piece in your packet on this also. This is for our Student Success Academy, which we talked about a few weeks ago. And I believe Yolanda and Rhonda are in to give us a quick overview. Yolanda Johnson and Rhonda Jacobs.
Dr. Johnson and Principal Jacobs, I know on this adult ed piece too, please.
Yes, good
Thank you.
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. You ready? So sorry.
We are.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Principal Jacobs.
Hello, good evening. This grant is in support of the Springfield Success Academy, the Adult Diploma Program, where it supports the 2 full-time positions of staff that we've recently hired, and as well as professional development, stipends for the teachers that will work this evening school, security, and of course, in support of all of our multilingual learners. We're trying to flip the acronym here, multilingual learners, and all adults that are interested in receiving their actual high school diploma.
Thank you, Principal Jacobs. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gresham, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hurst. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Principal Jacobs, as you can tell, we fully support your efforts and are glad to vote on this. Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passed. Thank you very much. We'll now move to informational discussion items, the MCAS and accountability data. Superintendent Ward, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We always make our annual presentation this time of year because, as you know, the MCAS comes out in the fall, in mid-September. So this is all of the data from the school system, including MCAS. And Elise Bernice is going to present this report, our stat specialist. Elise?
Ms. Bernice?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Great. So yes, we are here to present quite a bit of data from last school year. We're going to start off with a very quick look at our district context, and then we'll move into our accountability data, followed by our MCAS results. Then we will review our grad and dropout data and close with a look at some school climate data. So just to set the stage, here is our district strategic plan, which is now aligned with our portrait of a graduate. I'm sure you've all seen, as well as our actual portrait of a graduate, just to sort of set the stage for the data you're about to see. Also, we want to give a little bit of context. SPS includes 71 schools, and this includes some programs within schools that function as their own individual schools. This also includes 9 alternative schools, 1 virtual school. Some changes for this year, as you know, Homer Street is now Benjamin Swan. Commerce has opened a new program within it called Aspire. Looking at our enrollment, we are the 3rd largest district in New England. Last October, we had 23,721 students enrolled. You can see in the middle of the slide the breakdown of our student population by race and ethnicity. And then this table on the right looks at our subgroup breakdown compared with the state. So the first number gives that our low-income percentage as of last October was 86%. This is compared with 42% statewide. Of note, if we look at all of the districts in the state, excluding our charters districts, this is the highest low-income percentage statewide. Our high needs population is almost 90%, compared with 55% statewide. 28% of our students, their first language is not English, compared with 25% statewide. And 25.2% of our students are students with disabilities, compared with 19% statewide. Looking at that bottom set of numbers, our budget is $792 million. Our total number of FTEs, 4,851. Our student-to-teacher ratio is 10.9 students per teacher. And finally, as you can see, the breakdown of staff by race and ethnicity. And this totals to 38% of our staff coming from diverse backgrounds, compared with 14% statewide. So that's just to give a little bit of context. I'm going to dive in now to our accountability measures. As a reminder, we have not had any results, complete set of results released by DESE since 2019. So this is the first time we've really seen full results in quite a while. So I'm going to take a while to just explain the different levels and provide a little bit of detail on how these designations are made. So at the highest level, districts and schools are placed into two categories: those requiring assistance or intervention and those not requiring assistance. As you can see, SPS is placed into that category of not requiring assistance. However, some of our schools are requiring assistance. And these decisions are made, if you look at this focused and targeted support column, these decisions are made based on a number of different indicators, such as if a district or school has a low graduation rate or a low participation rate, or, and this is the most common factor, if their accountability percentile is 10 or lower. Accountability percentiles are calculated for schools, not for districts, and it is essentially measuring the performance of all the students in a school compared with all the other schools in the state. And the way that DESE does this is they look at a number of different indicators, and we'll see what those are in just a moment. But as an example, let's take ELA MCAS for grade 10. They look at the average scaled score for a given school, and they rank that average compared with all the other schools in the state and assign a percentile for that, from 1 to 99 for that school. They then replicate that same process for all the other indicators and aggregate that into one single percentile, giving different weights to different indicators. Finally, they do this whole process for the previous year, in this case 23, but they also do it for 2 years ago. So they have a percentile for 22 and a percentile for 23, and then one more time, they aggregate that into one single percentile value that represents the overall performance of the students in that school for the last 2 years compared to all the other schools in the state. If the school's percentile is 10 or lower, it is placed into this category of requiring assistance through focused or targeted support. Additionally, DESE does the same exact process, but for specific subgroups. So for instance, looking at all the EL students in the state and calculating that percentile again. And if a school's subgroup performance is 5 or lower, it is also placed into this category. So in addition to those indicators for placing in that category, a school or district could also be placed into this broad or comprehensive support because they're underperforming or chronically underperforming. And the decisions to be placed into that category or removed from that category are made at the discretion of the commissioner. So that's a look at the high level of assistance being required or not, and that's mostly based on straight up performance for the school or district. DESE also calculates another value, which is called the criterion referenced target percentage. And this is a measure of the sort of the direction that a school or district's moving in relative to the targets that DESE has set. We'll talk a little bit more what those targets are, but as you can see from this second column here, the SPS had a criterion reference target percentage of 58%, which places it in the substantial progress towards targets category. This is compared with statewide, the target percentage was 36%, placing the whole state as overall into the category of moderate progress towards targets. So indicating that overall SPS is moving in the right direction in terms of the targets set by the state. So what are the indicators that the state looks at when making all these determinations? Here we have the indicators for the district, and they're grouped by how we did compared with the targets set by the state. So this first box shows all of the targets that we met or exceeded in 23. They include math achievement for high school, extended engagement rate for high school, chronic absenteeism for all grades, and advanced coursework completion. There are also a lot of indicators that we improved in, but below that target that DESE had set. And those include ELA achievement for all grades, math achievement for non-high school, science achievement for all grades, ELA growth for all grades, math growth for our non-high school grades, and our 4-year cohort graduation rate. There's one indicator that is in this sort of category of performance unchanged, that's math growth. There's a little footnote on the side that growth is treated a little differently in how performance is measured. I won't go into that detail, but it is a little different in how it's determined. And finally, there were two indicators that we declined in: progress towards EL proficiency for all grades, and our dropout rate did increase. So we looked at our district results. Here's a quick look at where all of our schools fell in terms of those categories. As you can see from this first row, the largest number of our schools fell into the category of not requiring assistance, with a high number of them meeting or exceeding targets, also a high number making substantial progress towards targets, and a few in the moderate progress towards targets category. The second row are those schools that require assistance. Most of these are due to having that accountability percentile of 10 or lower, but we also have a few that are placed in this category due to low assessment participation rates. Central is one example of that, who actually had an accountability percentile higher than 10, but because of that participation rate, they're in this category. And then finally, this last row are those schools that had previously been designated as requiring broad comprehensive support, and they have remained there until the commissioner decides otherwise. Finally, wanted to close out by showing that 66 schools statewide were named as schools of recognition for strong growth or overall achievement. And Brookings, Glickman, and Milton Bradley were among those schools, and they all had those target improvement percentages of 90 or higher. So the state recognized that incredible growth that they made in working towards all of those targets. So we wanted to make sure we also highlighted those achievements as well. So that is our accountability system and the results for SPS. Before I move on to our MCAS results, does anybody have any questions?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Hurst?
On page 6, I'm not sure if that's the same, I'm wrong, not page 6. Page 8, where are the other schools? Like, are these all of our schools that are here with the exception of these 9 at the bottom?
Yes, should be. Yeah.
But it's not, and this even includes the zone schools?
Yes.
Yes, you can see those at the bottom. Mostly.
And so the gray area is how they're categorized, and the blue, the top blue column that's running parallel, that is where defines where they are on the spectrum of progress?
How they
I guess I'm...
It's a great question. It's how they performed against the state targets. The state gave every school targets for improvement, and it's how they performed against the target.
Okay.
So 2 different categories,
Got it.
right?
Got it. Okay. They can be in 3 different categories and be demonstrating progress in different areas.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I think Brent is in a good example of a school that actually had an accountability of percentile of 10, so just on the border, but they met or exceeded all of their targets. So moving in the right direction, but overall low performance.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Overall low against all the other schools in the state, regardless of the poverty, everything else. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Bernice, fine.
All right. So now let's look at our MCAS results. I will say that all the slides, and I apologize, there are a lot of them, are mostly looking at average scaled score. But in the appendix of this packet are the same exact slides, but showing the percent of students meeting or exceeding expectations, as well as average student growth percentiles. And also in your packets, you should have school tables that show those same 3 measures for each school, and they have 2019, 2022, 23 values, so you can see how those school results fell out. So to start off, we want to show some overall trend data going back a few years, in part so we can highlight the impact due to COVID. Just to sort of give a little information on what you're seeing here, and we have a number of line graphs, so all the color coding is consistent throughout. So the first chart, and this is ELA MCAS we're looking at, average scaled score. The first chart is for grades 3 through 8, and the second one on the right is for grade 10. And in all of these graphs, the state is the red line, SPS excluding ZEP is the blue line, and ZEP schools are represented by the purple line. And as a reminder, in these grades 3 through 8 charts, ZEP is represented by all those empowerment zone middle schools. In the grade 10 numbers, ZEP is comprised of Duggan High School, as well as Commerce, which is now comprised of Commerce Proper, Discovery, Rise Prep High, and also Honors Academy. So what do we see in this first chart? Well, as we all know, there was a decrease from 2019 to 21 due to the pandemic. And actually, what we saw statewide and for SPS excluding ZEP was that decline continuing into 2022, but we see that decline has now stopped in 23. In grade 10, it's a little different story. There wasn't so much of a decline in 21, but a significant drop for the state in 22 and smaller declines for SPS excluding ZEP and the ZEP in 22, and then kind of holding steady with slight increases into 23. The next chart looks at almost the same data, but with some new comparisons. This is looking at ELA MCAS for grades 3 through 8. And the first set of bars are for SPS in total, followed by SPS excluding ZEP schools. The third set are our ZEP schools. And the fourth set of bars are other comparable urban districts. These include Chelsea, Fall River, Holyoke, Lawrence, New Bedford, and Southbridge. And these districts were chosen because they all have a low income percentage of 80% or higher. But as a reminder, SPS actually has the highest rate of those and of the state. And then finally, we have the state as the final set of bars. The blue lines are always representing 22, and the green bars are always representing 23. As we saw in the previous chart, there really wasn't much change from 22 to 23 for this grade level, with the exception of a very small decline for the other urban districts. Now looking at the same information, but this time just for grade 10, this is how the state reports these. We see no change for SPS excluding ZEP, an increase of 1 for our ZEP schools, and a decrease of 3 for the other urban districts. And finally, what this chart shows is SPS excluding ZEP compared with the individual communities we just mentioned. The first set of bars is for grades 3 through 8, the second is for grade 10, and the light blue bar on the far left represents SPS excluding ZEP. As you can see, for grades 3 through 8, SPS has the highest average scaled score amongst the similar communities, and the second highest scaled score for grade 10. Now moving on to math. Same charts, but we see in this case a more drastic drop from 2019 to 21, but we also see that the recovery started sooner with increases across the board in 22, and then for SPS, excluding ZEP, continuing into 23. For grades 3 through 8, for grade 10, again, we see that drop due to the pandemic in 21, and then especially if you look at that blue line, we see small but maintaining continual growth from 22 into 23, while the state actually saw a decline. Again, looking at our different comparison groups, we see SPS increasing by 1, SPS excluding ZEP increasing by 2, the ZEP holding steady, other urbans also flat, as well as the state. And as I'm sure you noticed, that chart, that table on the right shows the change for all of those groups from 22 to 23. Looking at the same data for grade 10, again, SPS.
Ms. Gresham, I'm sorry.
I have a
Ms.
question.
Bernice, I'm sorry. Ms. Gresham has a question.
Yes, on page 16, right?
Yeah.
For the math grade 3 to 8, does that indicate we're below the state?
Yes, we
Yes.
are consistently below the state in our average scaled score.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And that was the case before the pandemic, and it has continued, but our increase has actually been greater, so we're catching up a little bit faster than they have been.
Yeah, and that, Ms. Bernice, we see that, except for one category there, that we increased and the state went down except for one. Our numbers went up.
Yeah.
What page is that?
On page 15, except for
Yes.
one category
On page 15. Hold
3
on.
to 8.
What, say that again, Mr. Mayor? I didn't-
On 3 to 8 and on, especially on 10th grade, our trajectory has gone up On 10th, the state went down a little bit, and then some on 3 to 8, we did go up. And the
We went
state-
up, but we're still below the state, right?
Yes, that's
So
been-
yeah.
Yeah.
Every urban district is below the state.
But I think.
Every urban district is
we're
below the
one of
state.
the highest
Yeah,
scoring in
yeah,
the state for
yeah,
an urban
yeah.
district. They don't deal, a lot of those other districts don't deal with the challenges we have to deal with. Just to clarify, I'm sorry, thank you, Ms. Chris. Thank you, Elise. Ms. Bernice.
Yeah. Just as we were talking about other urban districts, here is the same data looking at math scaled score compared to those individual districts we talked about before. Grades 3 through 8, SPS is the second highest average scaled score and also the second highest for grade 10. Finally, looking at that same information but for science, the next generation science MCAS started in 2019 for grades 5 and 8, so we don't have any data going back further. But again, same story, we see that decline due to COVID and an increase actually starting in 22 and holding steady into 23. And that's a greater increase than the state or in this case, the ZEP schools saw over that time period. And that is also reflected in this chart as well. We see SPS and the ZEP holding flat from 22 to 23, while the other urbans in the state overall saw a slight decline of 1 point for grades 5 and 8. Grade 10, same story. We saw an increase for SPS, excluding ZEP by 1. The ZEP schools actually increased by 4, so now they're at 481 like the rest of the district, while the other urbans and the statewide was flat. And here's the same slide looking at the comparison to the individual comparison districts. In this case, for grades 5 and 8, SPS excluding ZEP has the highest average scaled score and the second highest yet again for grade 10. Next, we want to look at it in a little bit more detail, this time breaking out the average scaled scores by grade level, again compared to 22. The first set of bars are for SPS excluding our ZEP schools, and the second set are for the ZEP schools. As we have seen historically, the elementary grades tend to be a little bit higher, and then a little lower in middle school, and then higher again for high school. But as we saw in the previous slides, there really wasn't much change from 22 to 23. Some went up, some went down, but mostly flat over that time period. Math was a little different. Our elementary grades saw greater increases. Grade 3 went up by 3 points. Grade 5 went up by 2. Our middle school grades, again, were kind of up and down. And ZEP also had a similar pattern with some increases and some staying flat. And same thing for science, mostly no change, a little change for grade 8 and grade 10. And again, that 4-point increase for the ZEP grade 10 scores. Okay, any more questions on those slides before we look at some subgroup data?
Just, Ms. Bernice, on page 25, the science with the 10th grade, that's a 4% jump. That's a pretty good jump.
Yeah, the increase for the ZEP schools going up 4 points.
Usually, I know you look for a 2.5 or 2% jump, 3, okay. Should know, okay.
Very nice job.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Vice Chair Naylor, please.
Which schools do we have that are ZEP schools that are in elementary? Because I'm seeing bars for both in elementary school. I thought that we did not have any ZEP schools in elementary.
We don't have ZEP at elementary. ZEP's just middle and high school.
Right, so why do we see two different bars for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade? And for 5th grade?
The blue line is for 22 and the green line is for 23. All of the bars on the left are excluding ZEP. So the 3, 4, and 5 are only for non-ZEP schools.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
All right. So next we're going to look at this same information, but this time separated out by subgroups. So we have a number of charts that have similar setups. So I'm going to take a second to walk through what we're looking at. The different subgroups are shown across the bottom axis. And in this case, all of the blue represents SPS excluding ZEP. All of the green are for the state. The lighter colors are 22 and the darker colors are 23. So what we can see here is that SPS African American students actually outperformed African American students statewide by 1 point. Our Hispanic students outperformed Hispanic students statewide by 2 points. And this is again ELA MCAS for 3 through 8. Our EL and former EL students had the same level of performance as EL students statewide. And our special education students were just 2 below the same population statewide. And we can see that our changes mostly flat while the state saw declines over 22 to 23. Same information for grade 10. We see that our African American students, and actually in each subgroup, they are a little bit below the state. We're looking at the average scaled score. However, our changes were greater than the state. So we see an increase of 2 for African American students, while the state dropped by 2 for our Hispanic students. We saw a decrease of 1. Similarly, for EL and former EL students, the statewide there was actually a decrease of 6 points. We saw a decline of 3. So this, while we're below the state, it suggests that we are narrowing the gap a little bit through those changes. Grade 10, similar story. We are usually behind by 1 or 2, except for our Hispanic students who are at the same level. But the table on the right shows that we had gains for every single subgroup, while the state had smaller gains or no gains at all. Grade 10, similar story. Our African American students actually increased by 4 points, and our special education students increased by 2. So similar story, we're moving up a little bit faster than the same groups statewide. Science, again, our African American students in this case increased by 3 points, putting us higher than African American students statewide. Our Hispanic students were even at the same level and very close for our EL and former EL students. But our special education students are a little bit further behind, so have a little bit further to catch up with their peers statewide. And finally, grade 10 science scores, again, lower than the state, but if you look at that change table, while the state was consistently flat for all of those subgroup values, we saw gains in every single category. So those were all of our average scaled score charts that we wanted to show, but we also wanted to give a little information on our student growth percentiles. As a reminder, student growth is assigned for each student, and it's a measure of how much did that student improve from the previous year compared with students statewide who had a similar performance history. So, and usually the average for the state is about 50. As you can see, SPS excluding ZEP had an increase of 2, ZEP had an increase of 3, and all of that is above, SPS is above the other urban districts, will increase by 1. Our growth for ELA grade 10, similar, we had an increase of 2 for SPS excluding ZEP. The ZEP actually increased by 4, putting it at 51, while the other urban districts and statewide decreased by 1. Math was a mixed trend here where SPS overall increased by 1, SPS excluding ZEP decreased by 1. The ZEP schools actually went up from 39 to 44, and the other urban districts increased by 1 for grades 3 through 8. Grade 10, as you can see, the growth tends to be lower for urban districts generally for grade 10 math. We did have a decrease for SPS excluding ZEP from 39 to 37. We sort of switched with the ZEP who went from 37 to 39, while the other urban districts actually dropped by 4 to 35 as its average student growth percentile. And I think that's what we have for MCAS. We have one chart on access before we go. Are there any more questions on our MCAS data? Okay. In that case, I'll move on to access. As you may remember, EL progress was one of those indicators that DESE uses to make accountability determinations. Our EL students take this access assessment every February. It's measuring their progress towards EL proficiency. And for each student, DESE sets a target that is in line with them achieving EL proficiency within 6 years. And this percentage is simply what percent of students met that annual target. As you can see, prior to the pandemic, this blue line, which represents SPS excluding ZEP, was slowly increasing. And then statewide, we had a huge drop in 21. Much of that was actually due to participation. If a student didn't participate while we were remote, they didn't count as making progress. And then in 2022, we saw an enormous increase up to 50% making progress compared with 43% statewide. And then we did see a decline again across the state into 23, but still that percent making progress of 42 is higher than the statewide percentage of 38. So still have further to go, but students overall still working towards that EL proficiency and at a higher rate than the state.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I have a question. Where we have the asterisk down at the bottom or to the right-hand side, it says absent students are included in the percent making progress.
What page?
So
Yes.
if
I can explain it. So
Just before page 30.
basically, DESE
Okay.
looks at all of the
Thank you.
students who should have taken the test, and did they achieve a score that would count as them making sufficient progress. And if they didn't take the test, they couldn't have achieved that progress, so they got basically a no. They did not make progress. So a lot of students were counted as not making progress simply because they didn't take the test. But that was only a factor, a real problem in 21 because we were remote that year. Does that help?
so they were not. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear because of the
Yeah, so the absent students would be counted as not making progress.
not making it.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move into our grad dropout data. Same line graph we've been looking at, same color coding. We've added a new color, and that is to represent SPS excluding our ZEP schools and our alternative schools. And as you can see that for a number of years, that rate has actually been higher than the state. In 2022, 93.5% of those students graduated within 4 years, compared with 90.1 statewide. Our ZEP schools grad rate was 86.1, and SPS excluding ZEP was 84.2 in 2022. You can see the trend going all the way back to 2012, and some considerable increases there. This next chart looks at this same trend from 22 to 2020, from 2012 to 22, but by subgroup. So again, the subgroups are going across the bottom. The blue bars represent the district excluding our ZEP schools. The green bars represent the district excluding ZEP and the alternatives. The first darker bars represent 2012, and the lighter bars are 22. And finally, that black dot is the 22 rate for the state. So one thing we can see, those lighter green bars, the district excluding ZEP and the alternatives, in every case, in every group, those rates are higher than the state. And even if we include our alternative schools, those rates are higher for African American students, our Hispanic students, EL students, and low-income students. And in all cases, the change from 2012 to 2022 is very large. This next chart breaks it down by school, and we've also broken out all of the commerce sites by their individual campuses. Some schools of note here, in particular, we wanted to point out SciTech, which went from 39.9 in 2012 to 93.6 in 2022. So some schools in here particularly had very large gains over that 10-year period. Number of dropouts, so these are the number of students reported to have dropped out within the school year. Overall declines from 2010 to 2022. One thing to note, because we were remote most of 21, some of the students who dropped out in 21 couldn't be confirmed until 22, so were actually reported in that year, which might explain why that's a little bit higher than it was in previous years. And I should point out the ZEP schools are green and the non-ZEP schools are blue. Here are the rates by school. A few things to note. Central had a decrease of 7.7 in 2012 to 1.2 in 22. SciTech again from 11.6 in 2012 to 1.9 in 22. So very significant decreases across the board. Any questions on our grad or dropout data? Okay. Finally, we're going to take a look at some of our school climate data. The first indicator is student attendance. As we all know, there was a very significant drop in average daily attendance in 22, but we saw it start to increase in 23, but not quite as the same level it was pre-pandemic. And this was the case for all the groups we've been looking at statewide, for SPS in total, SPS excluding our ZEP schools, and for our ZEP schools. Chronic absentee, oh, yes.
Ms. Hurst?
When Jesse is making a determination of like what category schools fall in or where the district falls in, is absenteeism or attendance included as a factor?
I believe it's chronic absence. Yeah.
And so I guess I asked that because, so when we got back and even last year, we still had COVID cases, right? So we still had those very small pockets of spread. And so are they still sort of taking that into consideration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chronic absenteeism was actually one of the
They go by
indicators that we
chronic
met or
absenteeism.
exceeded our
That's
target score because we did have improvement and Jesse took
That's a
that into
problem for the
account.
whole state.
So this chart shows the opposite of attendance rate. It's the percent of students who are categorized as chronically absent, which is defined as being absent 10% or more of the time. So again, that spike in 22, but it came down significantly in 23, which the state gave us credit for, but not yet at the pre-pandemic levels. So we're hoping to see that trend continue into 24. The bar chart on the right breaks it down by grade span. So you can see the chronic absence rates for pre-K, that first set of bars, for K through 5, 6 to 8, and 9 through 12. So as I think has been shown before, pre-K chronic absenteeism because of their age is much lower, much higher. But all of it declining in 23. Next, we have our out-of-school suspension totals. Again, ZEP in this case are represented in green and SPS in blue. Very significant declines from 2012 to 23. And while the 23 number is higher than 2020, one thing to keep in mind is that 2020 numbers are really as of March 12th. There weren't any suspensions after we went remote after that date. Here we have the number of arrests reported, huge decline from 2012, and with the exception of the year we were remote, the smallest reported arrests in 23, a total of 14.
Can I ask why we don't have this part disaggregated from the ZEP?
The reason for that is we have historic data going back a few years, but we couldn't go back all the way to like their first 5 years or so. We don't have that data broken down by school. So we could break out the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. We could get that.
Yeah, can we see that, please?
Certainly.
But you see a significant decrease of 2012, 305 down to currently 20, let's say the
14.
Full year of 16 on 2022 to 14, 2023 currently. So that's an astronomical.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just wondering where are we seeing it? Where are we seeing it? Or is it even across the district and ZEP?
So, if I may, what's the question Ms. Hurst is asking? Information to get on what?
Could you clarify your question, Ms. Hurst?
Oh, I was wondering, so when we've been looking at this data, we've seen both the district,
Right.
ZEP, and the state.
Right.
And on this sheet, we only see the district including ZEP.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, could we have it disaggregated by district and ZEP? So that we can see
Okay,
what it looks like in ZEP versus what does it look like in the district.
all right, so she's gonna get that information for us? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's going to get you, but the historical data, we didn't have it broken down by school in the older data. That's why it's not listed that way, because we didn't have the schools in the historical data.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Ms. Bernice.
Here we have total reported bullying incidents, again from 2012 to 23. Steady declines, but there was a slight increase from last year to this year. All right, finally, we wanted to share with you some survey results. At the end of last school year, as part of our Portrait of a Graduate, surveys were administered to our students in grades 3 through 12, our educators and families. So there's a lot of questions, but we tried to provide some highlights by highlighting the most agreed with statements for as areas of strength, and also the areas for growth, which statements were the least agreed with. So this is for our elementary students that you're seeing up here. And over 60% of students responded mostly to these statements that promote a positive learning environment and critical thinking, such as, my teacher wants me to explain my answers, why I think what I think. In my classes, we learn to correct our mistakes. And in my classes, we learn a lot, almost every day. So high agreement with those statements. At the same time, areas for growth, nearly a quarter or more of students responded not really to, our class stays busy and does not waste time. And over 40% of students responding not really to, my classmates behave the way my teachers want them to, and we have interesting homework. So one thing I should have added is that this is going to be an annual survey that we're going to administer every year, and this time we're going to administer it in November. So we look forward to being able to track trends in how students and families and educators are responding to these questions. We had a similar survey for our secondary students, but with slightly more questions phrased a little differently. But the areas of strength were somewhat similar, actually. Nearly 80% of students responded either always or most of the time for these statements that promote a positive learning environment and critical thinking. So again, that first statement, my teacher wants me to explain my answers. My teacher wants us to use our thinking skills, not just memorize things. And in my classes, my teachers accept nothing less than our full effort. So very positive agreement with those statements. But again, areas for growth, at least 27% of students answered rarely or never to the statement, student behavior in my class is under control. 30% responded not rarely or never to, my teachers seem to know if something's bothering me. And 40%, over 40%, rarely or never to the statement, students get to decide how activities are done in this class. Our educator survey was very positive for all of the statements. Over 60% of educators responded either agree or strongly agree. I'm not going to read all of these because they're a little bit more wordy, but you can see a lot of green in that first section, overwhelming agreement with statements about relationships with families and differentiation, for example. The least agree with statements, 29% or less of educators disagree with statements regarding learning experiences and student voice in school-wide change. And finally, our family survey was also very positive. One of the questions asked families to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how likely they would be to recommend their student school to another parent or guardian. 45% of families responded 10 or extremely likely, 10 out of 10. And the average rating was 7.7. For all statements, nearly 80% of families responded either agree or strongly agree. And you can see what those top statements were at the first section. And the least agree with statements tended to be around communication from their child's school. So communication perhaps from their teacher or from the leader, principal, or assistant principal of the school. So again, we plan to track this going forward. Yes, question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at the bottom, it says based on 648 responses, out of what number?
So we don't have an exact number of how many families there are in the district, but this was sent, schools sent it out through there was a message that went out to all the families in the district. I know schools use teachers to send out through Class Dojo and various other mechanisms, phone calls. But that is a number we certainly would like to increase in the future. And we're going to strategize on ways to get better responses from families.
All right, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Certainly, Vice Chair Nally.
I kind of want to piggyback on Mrs. Gresham's question around the number of respondents. Do we have a breakdown as to what grade levels these families came from, whether it's elementary, middle school, or high school?
We do have the school, because a parent had to respond with what school their children attended. We don't have it by grade level, but we can see the schools that they attended.
If we could get that, just to dig a little deeper to see what the levels and I don't need it. I'm not looking for it by grade level. I don't know what the other members of the body would like, but I think if we just see based on elementary, middle school, and high school, just to get a better feel of who's responding. And then the other thing was, and this may not be a question that we can answer right now, but I know one of the concerns I brought up when we were doing the family survey was, were all of the caregivers or parents of the children being notified? Because, for example, in my family, I received a notification on the survey, but my husband didn't. So I don't know how, and even though he's in the system, for whatever reason, I got the notification, but he didn't. So I wonder if that was a situation too, where families, you know, maybe one person might have gotten a notification, but another parent didn't. Maybe that parent's more active or engaged or what have you. But more importantly is just to see, you know, what those levels are for the engagement. And if you could scroll back to see what the respondents were for the teachers and for the students, that would be really helpful. Do we have a number versus just the percentile as to how many responded from the educator standpoint and from the students?
Yes, I can get that for you. We've looked at how many teachers there are in the district and just calculated a percentage based on that, but I can get the actual number.
Thank you. And equally, I would like to see too at what levels based on a response, elementary, middle school, and high school.
Mm-hmm.
On that same page, Mr. Mayor, it's just only 38% of the staff decided to respond to this?
Could you clarify that, Ms. Bernice?
That's correct. It was 38% of teachers responded to this district-wide. Yep. I think we're hoping we might get higher response rates in November because it was the end of the school year. It was May into June.
Ms. Gresham had a question. Go ahead, Ms. Gresham.
She said it was during May or June?
It was May and June. We did it at the end of the school year. I think folks were kind of worn out by that, and we didn't get a response. So we're going to do it in November this year, so we should have a much better response.
Wow,
Yeah.
38 is very low.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
I have a
Ms.
question.
Hurst?
To Ms. Latonia's or Ms. Naylor's question, disaggregating it or finding out what grades, did we let our high school students, did we let the students, like, I don't know, middle school and high school, do it, or do we send it directly to their parents only?
So there was a survey for the students, and that was sent to the school, it was a, I guess, Survey Monkey type thing. It was sent to the school, and then they would arrange for their students to fill it out. And then there's a separate survey for the families to fill out.
So the
And there were
students did this
different
part in
mechanisms.
school?
I'm sorry?
The students did this part in school?
Correct.
Wow. 82% were in middle school.
Yeah.
For our 6 through 12, yes.
High school kids don't care.
Yeah.
We did
Thank-
have lower participation for our high schools,
The
yes.
student responses.
Thank you, Ms. Bernice.
May I comment again? I don't know if Ms.
Sure.
Hurst is done.
Vice Chair Naylor?
I kind of want to circle back to the conversations that we've been having around mental health and wellness, and some of these questions are very telling of the state and the conditions that students are finding themselves in, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And so I would highly suggest that as we think about professional development, and I know that Dr. Johnson is very keen on these kinds of things and focusing on these things, that we are thinking about what other things outside of the things that we've done around Khalees Warnham and some of these other folks who have come in and done training, how else are we thinking about trauma-informed care and concern for our students when we're dealing with them? Because if they're feeling this way in class, it may be because of something outside of the classroom, and it may be because of something inside the classroom, but I think it's really important for us to kind of hone in a little bit more on this aspect of it.
Thank you, Vice Chair Naylor.
Okay, any more questions or comments on the survey data?
No.
Okay, all right. This last slide. This is a chart that we include every year. It's just tracking a number of the indicators, many of which we've already looked at from 2012 through last year. That final column on the right is a trend indicator, and it's simply saying what direction we've moved in since 2012. As we've already discussed, attendance, while it's improved from 22, it is still not at the rate that it was before COVID. Same is the case for our staff attendance. A lot of staff were still out due to COVID last year. So those rates are still lower than they were prior to the pandemic. Additionally, we have some more metrics around college and career readiness in this chart, this sort of third section down, including SAT participation and AP exams participation and qualifying scores. Also, all of those are above where they were in 2012.
May I ask a question?
Ms. Hurst, then I'll go to Ms. Gresham.
I have, and Superintendent, maybe this is for you. So I wonder whether or not, and maybe it wouldn't be for 2022, 2023, but maybe this year, or maybe, I'm sorry, maybe last year, this year, and moving forward. I do wonder how much adding universal pre-K is a variable to attendance, because little ones tend to get sick, or we're more mindful about keeping them home, and or sometimes there isn't that same sense of urgency to send the little ones to school. You're like, oh, they can miss or they can stay home. And so I had somebody, another school committee member from Revere, ask me how had implementing universal pre-K impacted our attendance. And I'm just wondering what that would look like on its own.
There's no question that the PK attendance has always been less. And number one, it's not a law that you have to attend.
Right.
And that's a big piece of it, but you see that trend everywhere, and that trend holds for Springfield too. So there is an impact there. We were down overall anyway, but with more kids in pre-K, and if you're counting pre-K attendance, you're down. So that's a factor. When we break out attendance, PK is always more of a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Ms. Gresham?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question regarding out-of-school suspension, right? Isn't there a new policy, Attorney Phelps, before they can suspend a child out of school?
Thank you, Attorney Phelps.
Thank you. The reforms made by the legislature over the last eight or 9 years has emphasized that suspension is to be a last resort. In fact, the suspension forms that were developed through my office require the person who is choosing to suspend to list the alternatives to suspension that were tried prior to the last effort for discipline being a suspension. So I think that's why you're seeing a dramatic decrease because alternatives must be listed on the forms.
a decrease. Oh, but 854, right? In comparison to the year before. Are they following that policy?
Yes.
All right. Can we get a breakdown of race and gender?
I guess, Elise, I'll,
Yes,
with
certainly.
mayor's permission, return that to her.
Yeah, we can get, is it for, how many years would you like that for?
Just for this year, or last school
Okay.
year? Last school year. Last,
Last full school year, Ms. Gresham's looking for.
yes.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Phelps.
Can I also just add something about the chronic absence for pre-K students?
Sure.
In the accountability system, the state only looks at chronic absence for students in grades 1 through 12. Okay. So they don't count kindergarten or pre-K attendance in making accountability determinations.
Thank you for that
They
clarification.
don't legally have to attend in those grades. So-
But did we count it in ours?
So,
It is in these rates.
sorry, Elise,
Yeah, it is included in the
Isn't
slides.
In ours.
it's in our attendance, but in our chronic absence, did you count it, Elise?
I think they are included in
Okay.
here.
Got it.
I'll actually confirm that, because they may not, because I think we got this from the state, so now that you asked, I think it is actually just 1
I
through
would
12.
say it was
Because we're
discluded
matching
if
the
we got it
state's
from the state.
calculation.
Got it.
But our attendance, we calculate locally, and we count everybody. Thank you, Elise, great report.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Tell the bandmaster Gary we said hello.
I will.
Any other questions or comments before we let Ms. Bernice go? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much, Ms. Bernice. Okay, we'll now move to B, Sedesco update. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Yeah, this is our annual update from Sodexo, who manages our breakfast and lunch program. Roger Uyghur is going to present, and Sodexo's been a partner with us for a number of years, so I'll present their report now.
Thank you, Mr. Uyghur.
Roger?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Sarno, Superintendent Warwick, and members of the school committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share our story and highlight the true partnership that exists between SPS and Sodexo by presenting our school year 22-23 annual report for the Homegrown Culinary and Nutrition Program. Here is a screenshot of our agenda for this evening, and it's basically we'll be covering these topics. So the SPS Dream and Sodexo Vision are in alignment with what we're doing to eliminate student hunger. These 4 pillars represented on the chart are the basis for everything that we do. First and foremost is to improve food quality by realizing the full potential of the CNC to improve the food quality we serve our students. Serving students clean meals, and what I mean by that is free of preservatives, that are scratch made, healthy, nutritious, is really all that we do. Secondly, increase student engagement and participation in our breakfast and lunch programs, thereby reducing that student hunger gap. And increase learning opportunities through special events and connecting with students both inside and outside the classroom and in the community. And lastly, to increase student engagement through promotions and increased social media. I'd be remiss if I didn't offer my sincere thanks to the Sodexo and SPS team members for the determination to be the best school district food service program in the country. I say that because there are only a couple of districts in the country who can even come nearly close to emulate what we're doing here in Springfield to feed our students. And I want to tell you, Springfield represents the absolute cutting edge for K through 12 food service. Last school year, we added 20 new items to our 3 seasonal menu cycles. The most notable additions are included here below. The crispy chicken bowl with mashed potatoes using potatoes from Joe Sikowski's farm right up the road in Hadley. Breakfast taco bowl with chicken tostadas served with mi tierra tortillas made right here in Springfield, right across from Central High School using locally grown corn. Breakfast pockets, lunch calzones with dough and filling that are made from scratch right here in the CNC. Scratch-made meatballs in a variety of flavors to include Italian beef, banh mi, buffalo chicken, and Thai chicken. Scratch-made chicken sausage patties, which we feature now in our breakfast menu, and scratch-made dinner rolls as a side for salads and our hot entrees. Currently, we produce over 70 scratch-made items in the CNC, and that's an amazing number of items. Our culinary team continues to adjust our menus to incorporate student feedback and reflect student preferences. Many of the items that are added to our menu cycle were taste tested with thousands of students across the district prior to being added to our menus. And new this year, we've added 4 new menu icons to the Meal Viewer app that will help parents and everyone identify items that are locally sourced, vegetarian, vegan, and are scratch made right here in the CNC. Meal accommodations, one of our top priorities is ensuring our students with food allergies or sensitivities to food or food additives are protected. Comprehensive allergen training program is in force for our entire team. And resources are available to families and school nutrition professionals at Springfield Public Schools to update student meal accommodations and allergy information. Together with the school nurse, our registered dietitian is in constant communication to ensure that students have access to nutritious meals they need each day. During lunchtime, school nutrition professionals are available to assist students with understanding the extensive daily menu options that are available to them. An exciting new program that we're getting ready to launch is our scratch-made pizza crust with stone mill flour, locally grown here in New England. And it's whole grain flour, it's exceptionally healthy and nutritious. School year 22-23, we spent a great deal of time working with our partner, One Mighty Mill in Lynn, Massachusetts. We currently serve One Mighty Mill bagels in our schools. And I want to mention that these same high quality whole grain bagels are also sold in grocery stores like Whole Foods. This past year, we worked in partnership with One Mighty Mill to develop a new dough recipe. And the CNC then supplemented that dough recipe by developing our own scratch-made pizza sauce. We taste tested the pizza at several elementary, middle, and high school in spring of 2023 and received a 98% approval rating from over 250 survey responses. And then a highlight for us in June of 2023 was that we hosted 2 Kensington 5th grade classes here for a full CNC tour. And the students learned how to grind flour from wheat berries, mix the dough, and make pizza from scratch. The kids had an excellent hands-on learning experience of how our pizza is made. Naturally, the best part of the day was eating their pizza creations. And we'll begin phasing in our new pizza into the schools later this month. This is going to be a home run with our students. I'd like to talk a little bit about our local sourcing and culinary innovations. Our local purchasing goal for school year 22-23 was set at 23%. We surpassed that, reaching 25.3%. And we did that thanks to partnerships with Little Leaf Lettuce out of Devens, Massachusetts. As I mentioned, Mi Tierra Tortillas and Tacos and Tostadas out of Springfield, Massachusetts. Jeff's Granola out of Holyoke, Massachusetts. One Mighty Mill Breakfast Bagels and soon-to-be Pizza Crust out of Lynn, Massachusetts. And of course, Joe Sikowski Farms, as we mentioned, right up the road in Hadley. Our goal for new menu options is to purchase local products that fuel the local economy and to create jobs. We use no preservatives in any menu item we produce to ensure our students receive healthy, nutritious, and wholesome food. Together with our local partners, we're working to reduce the student hunger gap in our schools. And during school year 22-23, we met with our local farmers and partners who collaborated us to grow crops specifically for our use to produce new menu items for Springfield students this year. And our new culinary recipes and menu items are projected to utilize more locally grown produce and products than ever before. I'd like to talk a little bit about our menu cycle development and how menu ideas become on the menus in schools. So our menus are really custom designed using student feedback to excite and engage students. They include a variety of student favorites, authentic, diverse menu offerings, and mindful, clean recipes using locally procured foods. All these items are prepared with great passion, and as our kitchen team members always say, and a dash of love, as we're feeding their sons and daughters too. Menu planning starts with our 3 cycle menus: fall, winter, and spring. We look to provide an optional mix of grains, proteins, fresh produce, and a variety of side dishes and plant-forward initiatives. From there, the menu cycle begins. We start with concept ideas and research. What items and flavor profiles would be popular with students? From there, we move to feedback. We move to collaborate with student ambassadors, student focus groups, and our own school cafeteria and CNC employees for ideas. Then we survey on social media and in rank order format, where we'll send out a list of perhaps 10 different items for the students to rank them 1 through 10. And we'll then focus in on the top 2 or 3 items that are appearing on the list. And from there, those items then go to the test kitchen for recipe development, and then taste tests occur in the cafeterias, at community events, and for some of the items listed above, you can see the student satisfaction rating that have been received for some of the recently added menu additions. And then they're aggressively promoted on social media posts and to build up excitement among new menu items that are ready to launch. And then, of course, the big day comes and those items appear on the cafeteria menu serving line. This is a program we're extremely proud of. Our meals don't stop at lunch. We launched a new after-school meals program this past year, and it's been a great success. We served over 191,000 meals in 27 schools, and we hope to increase that number of schools participating in this vital program to reduce student hunger gap by keeping students fueled during their after-school programs. A delicious, more substantial grab-and-go style menu option is offered for all schools hosting an after-school enrichment program. Homegrown Springfield staff make and package these meals that are dropped off at a designated pickup location in the school. SPS is then responsible for collecting, distributing, and supervising students as they enjoy their meals. Participating schools must have an after-school enrichment activity. All after-school students are not required to partake in the enrichment program in order to participate in the meal service. So if they are not in a school enrichment activity, but they happen to be in the school, they are eligible to participate in this meal service. And lastly, I would like to mention that Sodexo offers a special backpack program. And currently, as we're probably aware, our students are at risk of hunger within the community, and this problem is compounded when students don't have enough food to eat over the weekend. And our program provides students with shelf-stable food items to take home with them on Fridays every weekend. Last year, we delivered over 17,000 backpacks to students in need through our corporate sponsors and our employee donations.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Ms. Gresham?
Yes, thank you. Can you explain theater groups?
Can you repeat the question?
Explanation of theater groups, is that from our after-school
Yes.
programs?
Yes, I didn't hear the question. Yes, theater groups. We're even linking in most recently with athletic directors for their sports teams to take advantage of these after-school meals. And we hope to grow this program significantly this year.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham.
Thank you. Our meal count at a glance for last year, we served 7.1 million meals based on the number of actual days per month. We started hitting new highs in the second half of last year, as you can see in the full months of school, like March and May. April, we had a break in there, and then June, we lost our seniors. But for the most part, we saw breakfast counts increasing to over 19,000 meals a day, and lunch counts increasing to over 21,000 meals a day. And these breakfast and lunch counts have continued increasing this year, with new highs being set for both breakfast and lunch in September. So we're definitely increasing the participation, reducing the student hunger gap out there, and that's what it's all about for us.
Roger, I wanted to thank you too during the height of the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. I believe we distributed well over 8 million meals at 19 satellite locations, and that was breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. And we did those, we also did the backpack thing for the weekend. So I think we were probably close to 9 million meals.
9.2 million.
It was, okay. I'm trying to remember all the stats in my head we used to do every day, or those Monday
Yes, we did.
morning briefing pressers for about a year and a half. But so it was over 9 million. Yeah. So just we wanted to make sure that our students and families did not go out even when we were virtual. So thank you again on that.
Well, thank you. I want to talk a little bit about our student scholarships. So Sodexo annually awards $10,000 in scholarships to students who champion meal programs at their school and take an active role in school nutrition. The past school year, we had 8 individuals receive scholarships that included 2 CNC interns from Putnam High School. All these students served as influencers to their peers and empowered others to advocate for themselves and share feedback about the meals that they were receiving. The feedback came through surveys, in-person interactions with our team, and social media. The scholarship recipients that are pictured here will be moving on in their education, and several of them will be continuing their study in the culinary arts. Because of student feedback, we can continue improving our school meal program, and we thank the student recipients for their contributions to the Springfield community. We have student learning opportunities, and these are fabulous endeavors that we partake in every year, and just kind of want to share a little bit about our Future Chefs competition. We had 5 student finalist chefs from grades 1 through 5 put their culinary skills to the test in March 2023, competing to win the best fruit or veggie side dish. And 5th grader Jawad Lavender from Bolin Elementary School took first place with his zucchini fries recipe. It was awesome. And then the Stir It Up Springfield, that's for our students in grades 6 through 12. We had 5 finalists, and they completed for a winning spot on our school year 23-24 menu, crafting their best vegetarian dishes in April of 2023. Central High School 10th grader Charlotte Kodmirski took first place with an excellent sandwich recipe. Our Student Ambassador Program saw 16 SPS students between grades K through 12 participate in the program, this year providing us with feedback and advocating for their peers when lending suggestions. Student internships, we had 4 this year. We had 2 students from Putnam and 2 students from Central High School. And the internships were especially focused either from Putnam with working within the CNC, or from Central Pathways internship program, working in departmental front office roles, also here at the CNC. We want to grow this great program in support of a portrait of a graduate, with additional interns participating this school year. We have to say this was a great experience for us with the interns coming into the CNC and working both in the kitchen and in the front office. We learned as much from them as they learned from us. It was a rewarding experience and truly something that we cherish and want to continue here with Sodexo and the CNC. Talk a little bit about our marketing and promotions. Our promotions, outreach, communications, and special events continue to grow. We use extensive promotional marketing and student learning materials to ensure that breakfast and lunch menus our students are informed. And we're building student relationships as those are absolutely critical and crucial to enhancing our student meal participation. And we're actively participating in both school and community events to build our community and network. So staying up to date with our students, even with their technology platforms on which they spend most of their time, and trying to keep up with them, we've been very successful in our outreach through social media. And their new dining areas have LCD screens with menus viewable for students, as well as on their mobile devices, and then school promotional materials that are printed and put up in the cafeteria. And a couple of the highlights from school year 22-23 included the Dairy Harvest of the Month smoothie event that we held at Central High School on March 23rd, featuring a free flavor taste smoothies during lunch. And we had special guests from the Dairy Council. And as you can see there, Pat the Patriot, and a raffle for a signed Mini Patriots helmet. Family Cooking Night in the fall of 2022 hosted monthly cooking nights with students here at the CNC and their families, featuring recipes made with produce harvests of the month. And of course, the Springfield World Largest Pancake Breakfast on May 23rd featured a student feedback booth, free samples of breakfast pockets, our spring student satisfaction survey, and a pizza stone raffle. And that was a lot of fun, the pancake breakfast. And Stirred Up Springfield winner Ashley Cargival served her winning dish on January 23rd, and included barbecue pork, mac and cheese, and steamed broccoli. And I know I'm making you all hungry. Our next slide deals with some current challenges that we face here within our industry. And the first is industry turnover. And as it says above, it says almost 80% of large school districts report staffing shortages are a significant challenge. For us, it occurs really at the beginning of each school year. Currently, though, we're averaging 6 to 7 new hires a week, along with our strong onboarding process, monthly group trainings, and development training opportunities. And quite honestly, here at the CNC, our training never stops. Developmental opportunities for career advancement. There are individuals who have come to us a few years ago that entered as food service workers and advanced to being accountability specialists in the schools, to then being actual leads and running a kitchen in the school, to then coming over here to the CNC to assume roles as an assistant zone manager and have promoted them up to zone managers. So we find that the best talent can often come from within, and we're fully supportive of developing our own in-house talent. The second is our food costs. And food costs, as everybody knows, by going to the grocery store, it's continuing to increase. And again, in that survey, almost 100% of the school districts were challenged by increased food costs. And what we do here in Springfield, we're focused on it, but we're always looking for opportunities to combat rising food prices coupled with declining reimbursements coming out of COVID. And as a matter of fact, our reimbursements are going to be declining and are going to continue to decline. So we've got to be more nimble, more agile, and look for opportunities where they exist in terms of reducing our product costs. And we do that right now through our daily reviews. We have weekly metrics meetings on food costs, our monthly menu analysis as an ongoing process to help drive efficiencies. And also, I think because of this great facility we have here, we're able to take large direct ship truckloads of products, chicken breast, pork. We can take an entire tractor trailer load here. And by so doing, we bypass the middleman, which is usually a food service distributor, and save the cost of that added markup by buying direct in huge quantities. And when you're feeding over 25,000 students a day, there's savings to be had if you can work directly with the distributors, and we have that luxury. And also looking at items that we had purchased previously that we now can manufacture right here in the CNC. And I give an example of dinner rolls. We make our own dinner rolls from scratch, as I mentioned earlier. When we were purchasing dinner rolls, they were 42 cents for a serving. We can produce that same serving of a dinner roll for 6 cents. And it's preservative free, it's clean, it's whole grain, and it's far superior to any store-bought roll. So we have some advantages that other districts don't have, and we're taking advantage of them. And looking to the future, it's amazing. Already we're into school year 22-23. We're off and running. In addition to engaging students through social media, daily conversations, engagement opportunities, and at special events, some of the items we're most excited about is our new Breakfast in the Classroom pre-ordering elementary school pilot. And what this is on September 25th at Bowles Elementary, we tested a menu ordering system with 2 teachers who took breakfast orders from their students in the classroom. This easy-to-use ordering system eliminates the guesswork of what to pack into the bag, and we know exactly what to pack in for each classroom and ensures that the students get the breakfast of their choice every day. We'll soon complete Bowles and train all of our zone managers on the system to begin expansion next to Rebecca Johnson and then on to all elementary schools. And a new menu items that should be popular among students coming down the pike is our beef and potato empanada. That was a huge hit that we had sampled with SPS students that marched with us in the Puerto Rican Day Parade on September 17th. And we also going to be making our own hummus here in 3 different varieties this year: a classic, a white bean Tuscan, and a black bean chipotle hummus, freshly made here. Again, no preservatives, going out to our schools. And of course, as I've mentioned before, we're very excited about the rollout of our locally sourced whole grain pizza crust with our partners at One Mighty Mill, and our homemade marinara sauce that launches on Monday, October 23rd in our high schools, followed by our middle and elementary schools. I want to say, as we begin to close, last year we invited you to come to the CNC in March, and it was an amazing time for us to showcase the many scratch-made items that we produced. And I hope you enjoyed your time with us as much as we enjoyed hosting you. That invitation to come back is always there. Our doors are always open to all SPS administrators, principals, teachers, staff, and student field trips to see this amazing facility. Please come visit us anytime. We're very proud of this facility made available to us by SPS. We welcome you and your groups to host your meetings here and tour this truly impressive facility that is fueling our students to learn, thrive, and grow. And lastly, here's how you can reach us. And thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Roger. And
Thanks, Roger.
You made us all hungry too, you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. But great presentation, and they've been a great corporate citizen for the city, and we're proud to say we've got state-of-the-art culinary arts center, the first really in the nation to do that, and working together on the city side and the school side. So we appreciate it. I don't know if there's any other questions or comments for Roger. Okay, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
We'll now move to reports of standing committees. Student Relation, Parent Concerns, Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Buildings and Maintenance Committee, Mr. Collins.
We'll be meeting shortly to go through the request to name the office at DeBerry.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Any questions or comments here? Legislative Contracts Committee, Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Mayor, all items were dealt with this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts. Any questions or comments? D is Curriculum Programs Committee, Ms. Hurst.
No report at this time, Your
Thank you,
Honor.
Ms. Hurst. E is Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Collins.
We've dealt with all the items during the course of the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you again for your efforts. Any questions or comments? F is Vocational Education Committee, Attorney Murphy.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy. G is Technology Committee, Vice Chair Monroe Naylor, please.
We did have a meeting in this past week to discuss the busing and the app that we had all been inquiring about and we discussed in the last meeting. And so we did have an update on the pilot that is out, and we hope to have more information for the public soon as far as how that pilot is going and how parents are responding to it. But so far, so good. It has been definitely helpful for parents to make sure that their kids are able to get to the bus and that the buses are coming at the time that they're expecting. If not necessarily on time, at least the students aren't standing outside waiting for buses.
Thank
May
you.
I ask a question
Yes,
of that
Ms.
report?
Hurst?
Who's piloting that app?
Vice Chair Naylor, if you could, who's piloting the app? And thank you for your efforts on this, too. Ms. Hurst had
Thank
a
you.
question.
So Ms. Hurst, there's a cohort of families that were identified by the transportation department, and Mr. Roach is also working on that with us. So he would have a better idea of how families were selected, but and the exact number, but there is definitely a number of folks that are involved, and so that we can get some real data as to how is it working for that number, and then be able to expand it out once we see that it is working the way that it's supposed to work. Which right now I feel confident that it is moving forward the way that we need it to.
Do we know, Mr.
Thank you, Ms.
Superintendent?
Hurst. Any other, any other questions?
It shows 3 schools. I'm happy to
Pat,
answer
I'm
that.
sorry. Go ahead, Pat, yeah.
That's okay. There were 3 schools chosen for the pilot, just to see if there's any kinks that need to be worked out. We wanted to make sure that we learned any problems before it got rolled out to the entire district. It's, I believe they are STEM, Kylie, and Bowles were the 3 schools that were selected just to get or STEM, Kylie, and Rebecca Johnson. I apologize, I don't know them off the top of my head, but 3 schools were selected, an elementary, a middle, and a high. And as soon as we understand what's working and that there's no issues, we're planning to roll it out to the rest of the district.
Thank you, Mr. Roach. Any other questions or comments pertaining to Vice Chair Monroe Naylor's report or Mr. Roach? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to School Safety Committee, Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. I is Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. Ms. Hurst, please.
No report at this time.
Thank you, Ms.
Mr.
Hurst.
Mayor.
We'll now move to the report of Superintendent. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a piece in your packet, a nice article on Yara De Palma Gonzalez, one of our principals, outstanding principal of South End Middle School, tied to Hispanic Heritage Month. She was one of our students and then moved up through the system, and her mom is also a teacher here. It's a great article. The next piece, Washington School, you probably heard about. We had an old fire suppression system piece that kind of blew off and caused the flood at Washington School. We had to close for one day. Our facilities and custodial team did a fabulous job. and had the building ready for the kids, so we only missed one day. We're going to make up that day on March 5th, which is a PD day, because Washington is not a voting station, so it won't be a problem with the presidential primary. And then we'll make the PD day up the day after school closes. So that'll be minimal disruption to the school. And Keith Asher, the principal, was thrilled with that prospect. But again, our facility and custodial team were second to none because there was a lot of water from that system that let loose. And the way they got there right away, cleaned it up. We had CRS also help clean it up so we could, get the air piece and everything straightened out. So great job by facilities and our custodial,
John
Rick
Carrigan,
Arib
yeah.
and John Carrigan.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Watching the cleanup from morning until the evening when we were back, it was incredible what they were able to get done. We were able to get our kids back in, so that was terrific. Next piece, Pat, I don't know if maybe you could put on that piece on Plum Field.
I was up there the other day, they put the turf on, and I was hoping I still had some
See my
eligibility.
screen?
Yeah, it looks fantastic up there. No, the lights are up, the turf is in, and
So while
the
he's
Signia
doing it,
is...
yeah, the Signia is great.
Oh, you just had it, Pat, it was just on.
There you go.
Yeah, it's showing the same things.
There's also a piece in your packet on this, so you can see. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat. So
Yep.
again, at Plum Field, which is at Duggan, you can see we're making tremendous progress. You can see the picture there, really coming along, and you can see a shot of the whole field as well with our insignia, but this is great for us. We've talked to Dwayne about it. All of our sports programs trying to use Central was a real problem for us, so with this progress we're making at Duggan, we'll have this field ready to go for mid-spring season with a track and the whole 9 yards. So we're really coming along well, and it's really going to help us with our athletic programs, but I think also the youth sports programs, because there's been a lot of strain relative to the field at Central. The next one, Pat.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Superintendent? Who's going to be able to play on this field? Is it going to be anybody's home field, or they'll share it?
Combination of Springfield Public Schools.
Okay.
Yeah. So like Central now, everyone's using that
Yeah.
field for those big games. Now we'll be able to use this field as well.
Okay.
We're also doing some other things. So Putnam's going to get a practice field, so that's going to be available. So we're going to have more venues. Poor Dwayne's been trying to figure everything in our AD on just using that one facility. Now we're going to have more options. Another nice option, and Pat, maybe you could put it up, we have some pictures of the improvements we're making at Central. This was with the school's ESSER money, actually, and they're going to put a baseball field in. You can see the progress that's being made with that. We're going to have that field in shortly as well. That'll be ready for the spring. You can see the dugouts. We don't have the field down yet, but the field is going to go down next on top of you can see how they put the foundation in. So a lot of progress there, and that's coming along. So we've really been able to upgrade our fields tremendously, and it's going to help. Our athletic programs have been successful, but since we built a new Putnam, we lost Plum Field.
Right.
So a big piece for us was getting Plum Field back, and we're going to get that back into the mix, and we think we'll have it for mid-spring activities and have the spring track. So again, we'll have the extra track. Just tremendous progress there. And again, I want to thank the mayor for putting the money up front for that, but it's something that I think that really is going to help the entire city, not
We
just the
needed
schools.
it. Two things, the Central Field was getting a lot of overuse there. I mean, a city our side needed two fields, and we were able to cobble together through grants, city money, donations to put it together, and we gave our word. Gary Brown looks down upon us from heaven now, the legendary sports writer for Republican. Every other week he would ask me, Dom, you said you were going to bring back the Ted Plum Field, so we've been able to do that, and it's going to be a great addition, not only for our high school or middle school students, but also for the whole area, Springfield surrounding area. It's going to be a nice complex there. And the Central Field is coming along very well too, but the turf's in, the lights are up. Next thing will be the stands will be going up, and we look forward to continued investments. It's youth development and investing in our youth is important to me, coming from my old South End Community Center days. And as the superintendent indicated, many of our young people have been able to parlay, besides excelling in the classroom, excelling on the field or on the court, to higher education. And that offers them opportunities to move on to college and even further than that, because we have more than a few that have gone on to become pro ball players too. But we school them that you got to excel in the classroom, just as important on the field or in the court. So I'm just proud that we're going to be able to get that Duggan Plateau to Ted Plum Field done right really in the center or heart of the city, and it's going to enhance the great work that's going on at Duggan Academy also. But it'll be available to obviously all our school system and to other youth programs within the area of Springfield.
Wayne's kind of been Harry Houdini, trying to make it all work at Central and trying to get everything we have in there, but it's been absolutely incredible. And again, Ted Plum was a legendary coach at Trade High School, Putnam.
Coached
and the
his
fields
father.
used to, and another person looking down from heaven is my dad, because he played for Ted Plum. He played football for Trade, so it's a great, great project, so really excited about that. And lastly, we have a contracts report in your packet. If you have any questions on the contracts, you can call Pat Roach.
Thank you,
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Any questions to Superintendent Warwick's report? Okay, hearing none, is there any unfinished business? Hearing none, is there any new business? Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion, thank you, Ms. Hurst. Is there a second? Second. Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes. Good evening. Thank you for watching, and good health.